March 2nd, 2020, Town Board meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. What's up, Patrick?
It is as submitted, Mr. Chair, no changes or supplements this evening.
Yeah, I thought we were tabling item number 7A.
Yes, continuing to the next meeting. My bad.
You'll just have to bring it up and then continue it.
Right.
So,
All right, that's it?
Yep.
All right,
Yes,
motion
sir.
to approve as amended.
Move to approve.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. Item number 3 is approval of payment of the bills. Sign off there, Steve.
Move to approve payment of bills. Yes, it did.
Second that.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 4 is the approval of the minutes of February 19th. Any corrections, deletions?
I saw none. I will move to approve as submitted.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, item number 5 is consent agenda. If the board doesn't have any issues with these 6, 7 items, I would look for a motion to approve.
I will move to to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, item number 6A, Water Gremlin. This is a permit update. Patrick, you're gonna,
Yeah. Mr. Chair, as submitted to you by the Town Building Inspector and Code Enforcement Officer, there is a memo that outlines water gremlin being allowed for building permit based upon meeting all fire suppression requirements and building code. Mike has no issues with communicating with the contractor at this point, and I actually spoke with White Bear Fire Department on Friday. They have, I believe, did we send out the full fire suppression plan or his report? I think Patrick did, but within his report, he has approved their building permit request as well. Nothing further.
but,
Phase 3 is to come probably in the next 2 weeks, building permit.
all right, but now, technically, as of right now, they have permit in hand or not? Do they have permit in hand or not?
No, they'll have it this week.
All right, because I know there was like a 3-page letter from the fire department, so they feel they can get all that taken care of before the permit's issued?
Yes, they do.
All right, any questions of the board?
No. Sounds good.
All right, so it's just an update, you don't need any action.
Correct.
All right, moving on. Item number 7, public hearing. This is for the stable properties at 5885 Portland Avenue.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do need to attain some posting requirements that were missed. So I would ask that the board continue this to your next meeting in March.
I'll move to continue the meeting until March. Next meeting in March.
What's that date? March?
16th, I think. Yeah, Monday, March 16th.
I will second that.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving on then, item number 8. We have town engineer items. First one is the improvement 2020 water system improvements. Who's going to take this one?
That's why we asked Dan to come.
Yes, I can give an introduction. This is water system improvements to help with the manganese levels in our wells and our blending operations. This is a natural manganese, a natural occurring mineral in the water, and yes, we have Dan Nessler here to kind of give us a synopsis on the bids we received, we received, and talk through that project. So.
Good evening. As you know, the Water Systems Improvement Project, as Larry mentioned, is to help improve the reliability of the town's water system and increase capacity of the water that's naturally low in manganese. Main portions of the improvements are going to be for well number 4, increasing capacity, rehabbing the well, some pipe replacement, safety equipment, and improved controls. At well number 1, there'll be some improved safety equipment and controls, and well number 5, controls improvements. As Larry mentioned, the bid opening was February 26th. We only received one bid. of that bid, it was about 3.5% higher than the engineer's estimate, including the alternate. Talked with that contractor and with a couple of the other contractors who had reviewed the plans but didn't submit bids, and it came down to lead time of some of the equipment and contractor availability, that everyone's pretty busy at this time of year, and they just didn't feel they were going to be able to get the work done with their suppliers and their staff. And then the other comment they had, there's kind of 3 main well drillers in the area that would perform the majority of this work. And of those 3, only one had availability to perform the work, so they were only able to get bids from one well driller for the generals. So with that, based on the contractor availability and the feedback we got, and with the bids being within about 3.5% of the engineer's estimate, we're recommending moving forward with the project.
Dan, is this Keys Well Drilling, is that the subcontractor that?
Keys
is
Well
it-
Drilling is who provided a bid to the general, correct?
Is there any reason why they just can't take the project on themselves?
Projects like this it's probably 50-50 between the building improvements, the controls, and the well drilling portion. So whether the well driller chooses to be the general and then hires subs, or whether a general contractor hires the well driller, they kind of go back and forth on how it happens.
Well, I was just concerned that is the bid's coming in too high, because now there's middlemen in between us, and that may be running the bid up a little higher.
That could go the other way too. If Keys has to go out and find the general to do the building improvements or whatnot, then Keys is acting as that middleman, so you're going to see the markup on the other side. So it's kind of, with the project being about half and half between the well portion and the rest of it, there's no real benefit one way or the other.
So Dan, what was the timeline we put on this, and the bidding, what was the time frame we told them we wanted this done in there?
We wanted the work done for the peak summer demand, so end of May is when the work is substantially complete, so we'll have it available for the township for the summer.
So
if
we don't have time to put it out for
We don't
bids and
have
look
time
for another
again.
bid.
No, at this point, the concern would be if contractors get even busier and prices could go up and you wouldn't have it available for the summer system.
Part of the engineer's number, did that include TKDA's amount for observation?
Of that bid number, no, that's a separate number.
So we're looking at 439 plus another 19?
Correct.
So this project's coming in closer to 460?
I believe total approved that would be coming from the water fund is 515. So that includes the design that's already occurred, this work, the construction observation, and then there's one other portion of this project that'll be completed by In Control, the township's integrator. So the sum of all those projects is going to be right in that 515 neighborhood is what's estimated.
Scott, you got anything?
I just had a question on the $25,000 directed work allowance. Is that just for like contingencies?
Exactly. Anytime there's a rehab project like this, there can be undiscovered things. So as opposed to coming back for a change order to the board, we put in that $25,000 engineer directed allowance. So if there's any small changes, there's a number in place that we can direct the contractor to complete that work.
And if there's no surprises and that contingency is not needed, then it would be less than the 439?
Exactly. Yep. And that's what we kind of mentioned in that letter. We had some conversations with the contractor who provided a bid, and they don't feel that we've missed anything, so the hope is that we don't have to use that contingency. So hopefully we'll come in under the bid amount. There's a few other items we're going to work with them as well to try and reduce costs during construction.
On the tabulation of the bids, what kind of struck me is there's a couple things here, line 20 and 21, like a 10-inch check valve and a 10-inch T&2 air release valve. I'm curious, was it spec'd out for a certain brand? Because the engineer says 2,500, the bidder's coming in at $8,000.
Yep, and that's one specifically we asked him, and that came down to lead time. He said right now a standard lead time is 16 weeks for that check valve, just availability. So to put a rush on it and meet schedule increased the price from what we were looking at.
Yeah, because the next one was 1,500 and they're putting in 4,500. So I can see why the bid's higher if those are the kind of jumps in prices. Anything else, Steve?
No, I think we,
And I know we started this conversation late last year to try and avoid having a repeat of last year's personnel manually running around. Thought we were ahead of it.
Well, and postponing it would mean it just more of a burden on the
Well,
Public Works.
It would, yeah, they'd be running around again like they did all last summer.
And the concern there is too, is last summer we were pretty lucky with a wet year, that if we get a dry summer, the demand on the system's gonna be that much higher.
so excuse me, I was gonna ask about the concrete work down the line, down at the, like, item, where is it, number 40, 41, 40? Concrete work. I mean, you guys have fair idea what concrete work ran last year. It's just it's the marketplace that put it almost double what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah, I can't remember what project we bid last year that had simpler ramp, and we took the average of those bids and, you know,
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's just frustrating when we think we got a budget here, and then all of a sudden it's like, some of these things just seem like, I don't want to say gouging, but it seems like they're,
Gouging.
you know,
Not gouging, but gouging.
fair market? No, some of this isn't fair market. But,
look, you know, we look at the overall and being 3.5% off, we're within the margin of error, I'd say.
yeah, because some of these numbers are just the opposite. You guys are higher than some of their prices, so.
Yeah, I was just noticing that there's a number of them
A
where it's
significant amount,
reversed.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, have we beat them up enough?
I think so.
This is just the first phase, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for showing, Dan.
All right, any other questions to Dan?
No.
Larry? Let's ask Patrick something.
I'll well, go ahead.
Actually, Mr. Chair, you were going to make a statement about this project as it relates or does not relate to water gremlin?
I was?
Yes, you were. Said that we're not doing this.
Well, that kind of came up at the last meeting too, but this is for our water quality control, and it's something that we can't put on a back burner either. That 3% may seem like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, we need to stay on top of this.
Yeah, as Larry noted, the manganese is naturally occurring. It's been there
Yes.
long before we've been around. It's not, not related to the TC or anything at Water Gremlin.
And for the public, it really is not mandated that we have to do this. It's just more than likely it will be
Correct,
mandated
right.
in the future.
Right now, Department of Health has issued guidances of what they recommend, but there's no statute requiring this.
But
So,
usually when they've given guidances, requirements are coming right
Yeah.
behind them.
yep.
Yes.
So we're getting in front of the curve.
So this is two benefits. One is to prevent all the additional manual work that had to be done last year, but also it's positioning us for future potential guidelines that come down the road.
Yep. And I would add a third there, that some of this is routine maintenance. This well, I believe, would be the next that needed rehabilitation anyway. So that's part of this project. So part of this work would have happened in the next 2 to 3 years.
So it strengthens our overall water management program.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? You want this in 2 motions?
I'll make a motion based on town engineer review and recommendations to receive the bid as submitted.
I will second that.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a second motion based on the town engineer's review and recommendation to award the contract for the water system improvements to the lowest responsible bidder, Municipal Builders, Inc., for the total bid of $439,500, and authorize TKDA to perform construction observation of the water system improvements in an amount not to exceed $19,500.
I will second that.
And note that the funding is from the water fund.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, moving on. We have a town clerk item. It's the LGA status update.
Yes, Mr. Chair, per the directive of the executive board 2 months ago, myself, Chad, Patrick Kelly and Ed, you, Mr. Chair, made the trip down to Roger Chamberlain's office on Friday afternoon. We were also met with David Hahn, who is the executive director for the Minnesota Association of Townships. On the agenda that day was the potential release or the ins and outs of trying to become eligible for local government aid as a special case urban township, which would be rewritten into the statute allowing for towns type 1, town type 2. I forgot what it is, but it's in the statute.
It's towns of the first class, statutory towns.
That's what it is. So through a lot of discussion for about 10 or 15 minutes, we kind of got the feeling that we weren't going to get the support we were looking for in that angle. However, further discussions with Mr. Hahn and Senator Chamberlain came up with a couple of other options that we think are at least worthwhile of trying. The first one was an immediate impact for this legislative session, in that Senator Chamberlain was going to write a bill that would, tell me if exclude is the right word, the township from paying fees into the Met Council for a variety of reasons. As we've discussed in a couple of meetings before, right now the township is just under $1 million a year into the Met Council. We thought that that would be a pretty good net if that were to happen. I've got a couple questions, or TK and I have a couple questions about identifying use of revenues out of water and sewer that would be freed up if we didn't have to pay into Met Council. That would be for the immediate. And the second one was the Association of Minnesota Townships already is lobbying and has written the language to expand township aid for legislative session year 2022. So the Met Council portion of rewriting the statute would happen in 2021. The additional funding for township aid, which the Association of Minnesota Townships is requesting $10 million additional dollars to the already $10 million that's available. And Senator Chamberlain said he would support both of those components on behalf of the township. Chad, do you want to chime in on anything, or Ed, do you want to add?
I think that's pretty accurate. I'll expand a little bit on the Met Council. I think the thought was to divest jurisdiction of the Met Council over any township located within the 7-county metropolitan area. So basically, you'd be free of the of Met Council control.
Well, out of the two, I mean, I could see where the aid to Matt might fly, another 10 million to them, which I don't know what that's really gonna net the township. I heard a number of maybe 100 grand a year. I think we're on a huge battle to get the Met Council to relieve us of any kind of burden from them.
Right.
It's one thing to ask the local government aid to start funding out more funds to us, because it's coming out of somebody else's kitty. Well, now if we start nicking Met Council's kitty, we're gonna have the same battle.
Right.
But it would be an absolutely amazing success story for the township if we could get that done. This would be huge.
Well, there's indirect costs too you'd be saving, because Met Council controls zoning, your comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of money on that.
Yeah.
That's got to be an uphill stretch.
Yes.
Well,
You know, those would be the indirect expenses
Yeah.
you'd be saving.
the biggest hurdle, though, was getting legislative support.
Correct.
And we have a representative or a senator who was very emphatic of his support on both of those components. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, but I will say, the probability of one or both of those things occurring is higher than if we were to pursue LGA.
Yeah, because even if we got admitted under the umbrella as an urban township, our formula is still skewed against us where we don't gain anything anyway. So even though we're now listed that we can get it, until they rewrite or amend the formula, we still don't get any money.
And that was one of the thoughts, was to write a new formula.
Right.
But it sounded to me like they were talking about a special formula just for urban townships.
But that's another hot potato. Nobody wants to touch it.
Well, funny thing is, there probably only are one or possibly two urban townships in Minnesota.
Well, plus this thing you said was what, formulated in the 70s? So it's.
Yeah, the original LGA,
It's
yeah.
outdated, but nobody wants to seem to.
Yeah, I thought originally, though, that on the House side, is there any sponsorship going to be, did he say anything about sponsorship for the, for a
He was,
companion bill in the House?
Roger is gonna work on that.
Okay.
Yep, that was his
Because the
responsibility.
governor has made that, stated that's one of the priorities is to improve local government aid, which I heard was changing looking at the formula.
Yep.
But that's not this year, it would be further out, is what you're saying, almost for any relief.
I would say the first 15 minutes were not pleasant. The last half hour, 45 were. I felt like we had a pretty good discussion. Having David there was clearly a positive. He kind of reined the discussion back into a township side rather than us kind of ramming away at the LGA. And I thought that having him there on our behalf was a positive for sure.
Good.
So.
Well, so either way, it's not, we're not dead in the water yet. So
No.
we've got some options.
Should get some language from David this week as to how it should look. So, and by the way, they are already lobbying, even before we had this discussion, for the increase in township funding. So it's kind of already moving. We'll just kind of see if we can't latch
That's
on.
with the MAT lobbyists they were using?
And I had talked to Patrick too, because I just saw in the Met Council's bulletin, the last one I received, there's grant fundings for projects.
Yes.
So I think if we have to start pursuing some of this grant money more from them to at least, because I mean, we can kind of justify that, look, we're under your thumb, now it's time for you to help us.
I don't disagree with looking at grant funding, and I think we've talked, at least not 6 months, maybe a year and a half ago, about even looking for someone to help with grants. I don't know if your forte is writing grants, but there is some novelty to having that ability to pursue grants.
Grant writing's an art form.
It is, and I don't know how, if it would, to me, it'd be in our best interest to get someone that's very good at it on a consulting type basis and see what we can do.
I have some connections.
I don't know what your thoughts are, but something we should pursue, I believe.
All right, so Patrick, you have your marching orders?
Yes. Every piece of information that comes from David Hahn, or MAT, or Roger Chamberlain's office, I will keep the board apprised immediately.
As a board, can we at least authorize a letter to to him and the Township Association thanking them for participation in this
I
endeavor?
already did a small one, but I'd be happy to do an official one.
Whatever. They do represent us, and I think we should acknowledge that formally.
Simple motion would be appropriate.
So I'd like to make a motion to recognize the cooperation and help of the David Hahn, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of Townships, on behalf of us as an urban township, so, the legislature.
And Roger, too?
Yeah, well, sure. We can do Roger one.
Pretty enthusiastic there, Steve.
Well, that's his, he represents us. That's his role. I'm sorry, but David,
I will second that motion.
I forgot to add that Bob Kermis was also in attendance.
Correct. And that is one thing we need to give a special thanks to Bob, because,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, as a former town board supervisor, he's still kind of leading the charge on this.
Yeah.
He's staying abreast of all the stuff that's going on. He does a lot of research and fact-finding when we go to these meetings, so, Bob, if you're listening, thank you.
Yes.
All right, is that it, Patrick?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Wow.
All right, moving on. Number 10 is open time. I see we have a resident. Just state your name and address for us.
I'm Ralph Tilma. I live at 4294 Oakby Lane. Looking at the agenda, and I see that Excel wants to put up some more power poles. I'm a resident in this area, and I know that many folks in the immediate area here were very surprised and unhappy about the appearance of the poles that went up right over here next to this building. These things look like they belong in a refinery or a steel mill. Excel can do better than that, and I know they can. I've seen poles that blend into the horizon a lot better than these things.
Are you
So-
talking about the ones over by the power plant?
Right. Right over here. This one, it's a monstrosity. It doesn't belong in White Bear Township. So the only thing I have in mind is someone, either the town engineer or somebody, ought to contact or should contact Xcel Energy this time around and find out what these poles are going to look like before they go in the ground. Because residents have to look at them forever.
Well, we have an engineer right here. Larry, do you happen to know?
What are they going to use?
Are they,
Yeah, I'm guessing it, in this residential area, there'll be the standard pole, wood
Well, I don't think
pole.
you should guess. I think you should find out. No guessing in this at all. If it's wood, or if it's going to be this kind of Corten steel that looks like a rusted pole all the time, or
I don't
aluminum,
know
or
which one are you
concrete.
referring to out here?
it's right by the power.
Right over here. It's a huge thing.
If
And-
I remember right, there was a reason for that. I don't know if it was because of the weight or the number of lines. I remember that discussion because one of our previous board supervisors lives right across the street, Bill Mampel, and he was very concerned about the look too, but there was some justification because of that.
Well,
But I don't
they
remember
put
what.
another circuit in. So the arms have to be bigger on it, because they put in another circuit. I'm not an electrical engineer, but I can see, looking at it, is the reason for putting in these bigger poles was they put in another circuit. And they combined the poles into one, the lines into one pole. I understand all of that, but they could have picked out something that blended into the horizon and landscape better. Even aluminum would have looked better, or concrete. If you go down into Florida, they use concrete down there, and it doesn't appear to be such an eyesore as this thing right here on the corner. But the only reason, it's too late to talk about it now, we're stuck with it forever, but the only thing I'm saying is, in the future, when Xcel Energy wants to put in new poles, somebody ought to find out what it is they're going to put in, whether it's going to be wood, aluminum, concrete, what is it going to be?
Well, I tell you what, Ralph, we will find out for sure and let you know. But I'm guessing that in residents like that, they would replace the wood with wood, wouldn't they?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, does it say it on the plan there, Larry?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the plan here, and they
I
call
just
out.
don't, I don't want residents to be surprised by
Yes,
something
consent agenda.
unsightly.
Oh, there's a couple of them.
5.
Yeah, there's different type of poles they call out in the plans here. Class 40-foot Class 3 poles, 35-foot Class 4 pole. Those classes, what they mean, let's see. I'll have to dig a little bit more, but your concerns are basically
Appearance,
what type of poles are gonna be replaced? What are their heights? What are the materials?
the appearance of the poles, the
And
appearance.
how are they gonna look?
Yeah,
And is it for any specific area? Because there's four
whatever,
different.
whatever this is.
There's 4 of them.
There's 4 of 'em.
4 locations, so
All
for
of
each of
them.
them? Okay.
All of
Just
'em.
wanted to check.
You know, they're forever. And we got a surprise with this thing, and I just didn't want any more. I know Excel can do better than that. They like those poles because they're maintenance-free, but they're unsightly. They can do better than that. They have other materials they could have chosen.
Well, me personally, I'd like to see them put it underground. You get rid of the
Yeah,
poles.
that's the
but-
ideal
The city
situation.
forced them to do that. If you go over here at the intersection of 96 and 61, you'll see the power lines go underground because the city insisted that they not put up as poles in the city. So they spared us from that unsightly stuff. And you folks could have insisted to go underground too. You could have, and avoided all of that. But it would be so much more costly that I'm sure the township would have been in court over it because it's so much more costly. They'd have to go underneath the railroad, the roads and everything like that, so they would resist that.
Railroads probably won't even let them.
Yeah.
They're tough to deal with.
Yeah, so it probably wasn't possible, but they did it over there in White Bear Lake, and you'll see that the poles go down and underground, and then they don't come back up until they're over on 9th Street, they come back up again. So the city was spared from those poles. And if you look at that pole over there, it's not that rusty-looking thing at all. It's made out of some different material, so it doesn't look so bad. But that's just my opinion, and I moved out here partly because of the landscaping, and I hate to see it sort of look like Cicero, Illinois, where I came from.
Well, Ralph, we appreciate you bringing this to us, and we will find out exactly what kind of poles they are for you, and we'll let you know.
How are you gonna do that? Call me up or what?
Yeah, well, the staff will contact you.
All right, well, you want my phone number?
Did you sign in?
No, I haven't.
Okay, if you,
Just sign in sheet with your number. We'll get some information for you.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
No,
All right,
Mr.
moving
Chair.
on. Item 11, need a motion for receipt of agenda materials and supplements.
so moved.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
We are adjourned at 7:31.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
I know 5 seasons.